So all the people that are outside, if you can very quickly come inside, that would be fantastic. That would be absolutely fantastic. And now everyone that's inside, just take a moment to breathe and to acknowledge the fact that we are here. We're actually here. And I want to thank the council very much, because this is the first time that they are doing a meeting, and it's a little scary for them because many of them have never been up on this sort of stage or podium. So let's show them a little bit of love, a little bit of kindness. That will go two ways. The other thing that we want to do is remember, everything we do is an experiment, and we learn from that experiment. So as we're here together to harmonize, to humanize, and to be with each other, heartfeltness with each other, let's remember that, yeah? So just let's take a moment of silence. Do I have my little bell? Where's our bell? Do you want to ring it? Thanks to Svaram that has this, and thanks to all of us. We'll just take a moment. Do you want to just ring it, Shavaya? Oh, sorry, for those of you who don't know, my name is Fifth. I am an Aurovillian, and let's take a moment of silence. And obviously, take a moment to go deep inside. What is your personal aspiration, and what is your aspiration for the community? One of our aspirations, I say our because right now, as a facilitator, I'm not part of the council. I'm not part of RIS. I am independent, and I'm with the facilitators group. And so we're here to facilitate. We're here to listen deeply to what everyone has to say. And at the end, we will harvest and we will see what the next steps are. The council will take us forward in terms of what we're doing. They have a presentation, and we will actually start in a few moments by them introducing themselves. So we've come here together to aspire. And what is it that we're doing well? What is it that we need a little bit of work on? How do we come together? And I mentioned at the beginning, to harmonize. So on that note, there's a few guidelines that we have that I know that you will honor. And one is, as I've said before, is to listen deeply. And if we have a disagreement, that's okay. It's okay to disagree. But it's not okay to do some of the other stuff, like, scream at Suryan. Should I scream at you?
No.
Okay. I won't scream at you. Will I get cranky and stamp my feet? No, right? So we hold that, and if we need to say something, we will. And there will be a space where you can vocalize that. There's many things happening in our community, but let's come together. So I want to thank the RAS who are here. Do you want to just stand up for a moment, whoever's here? RAS? Yeah, thank you. We've got people that have put together the presentation. We have Taranti in the back who's dealing with childcare. We've had people that are huggers. We have silent present keepers. We have an entire community behind the scenes coming together for all of us. We have those that are online in different parts of Auroville, India, and the world coming together to support all of us. So thank you, everyone, for coming together for this. And I think on that note, shall we introduce? So what we'll do is we're first going to introduce the council, followed by the mandate, what is their mandate, and then we'll break out into a Q&A. And we'll guide you through that Q&A at that point. So right now, may I hand it over? Who would like to speak first?
After the introduction of each member and the mandate, we are going to give you a short, let's say, a short breakdown of our work, of what we have been facing these last 14 months, but also how we are doing, in a way, our aspirations.
Who would like to start to introduce yourself? Surya, thank you.
Hi. So, this is our first meeting. Nice that we finally made it. we wanted to do meetings earlier, but this year has been one big cloud of chaos. What? What happened?
The experiment is I forgot. I forgot that what we're doing is we're saying this in the 4 different languages. May I have someone in English read this? Did I see you put your hand up? Come. Yes, and when you speak, you have to stand up. But in the meantime, can someone read this in English? I'm just looking right at Daniel. And following English, we will have someone reading it in French, which is mother's language, then Tamil, and come. Yeah. Now, everyone who's reading it, please come. Face the camera. Eyes in the back of your head.
The city the earth needs. The purpose of Auroville is to realize human unity.
ஆரோவில்லின் நோக்கம் மனித ஒற்றுமையை உணர்த்துவதே ஆகும்.
It's okay. Eric. Eric from Baraka.
So, you want me to read?
Oh, we can read together.
Maybe. Together.
Yes, read together. Beautiful.
Yeah, unity.
Read together.
Auroville, la ville dont la terre a besoin. Le but d'Auroville est de réaliser l'unité humaine.
Merci.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. And Akinta, come.
वह शहर जिसकी पृथ्वी को ज़रूरत है। ऑरोविल का उद्देश्य मानवीय एकता की अनुभूति करना है।
Beautiful. Thank you very much. Sorry about that, Suryan. Now over to you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. I thought there'd be less people, actually. So there's a lot of you. But that's okay. So as I was saying, just great to be here finally and to say hello, to the community, because in our little bubble shell cave of a council room, I guess we don't always connect to the community as well as we should. So that's very much the intention of this meeting. I think in our slide you'll see that we kind of tried to explain some of the reasons for the delay and some of our difficulties over the past year. So maybe I won't speak too much, but I'll just say my name is Suryan, and I've had a great year of learning and a lot of work, and happy to be here.
For people who don't know you, can you just give 1 or 2 sentences about who you are, where you were born, that kind of thing?
Okay. So a lot of old-timers think I'm born in Auroville, but actually my mother flew to England from here about 2 months before I was born, and then I came when I was 6 weeks old. So so then I was here for the first 3 years and then back and forth. So then I came back when I was 10 years old and went to transition school, went to last school, then went to Kodaikanal, and I've been here, on and off my whole life. And I didn't expect to speak about this. I should have prepared something. Other than that, I run EC Amlam Guest House. I've been doing that for the past 15 years. And I'm an avid musician, singer, songwriter, although I haven't been doing much of it recently. But I hope maybe in the next council meeting I can jam it up for you all. So let's see. Okay, thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Ganesh. I'm born and brought up in Auroville. I born in Auro model. So it's okay. I work for Deshakti and also off time in council. It's my 3rd year, my final year actually. It's done. And I worked with 3 different teams, and each team gave me a big knowledge, and I've been learning from each people. So, and also the year what I'm with the new team, it's really challenging what we are facing today. And what else I can say? Nice to see you all.
Thank you.
My name is Shivaya, and I am the longest in the council. This is my 4th year. It's sort of the 2nd term. I got re-elected, but let's say I also knew that how important it is in a group that somebody knows history. And I think that's what I'm bringing to this particular council, that I've been here in Auroville for long, that I have now an experience of being in the council, what doesn't mean much because it changes constantly, but nevertheless, so, and I'm a dedicated worker, I can say so much. So for the rest, I think we have I've been grappling with this year. This has been extreme, and the work also, but I think it has been beautiful to work with them. So I really want to say it's such a big difference when the team is kind and loving to each other. It helps to hold difficult moments and carry through. Thank you.
வந்தோர் அனைவருக்கும் மாலை வணக்கங்கள். Very good evening to all of those who have come to the meeting. My name is Balaji. I'm born and brought up in Auroville. I live in Kotakare Farm. Farming is another service which I'm doing to the community. I'm being chosen by the community to serve the Auroville Council, so I'm doing the service. Thank you.
We have actually some missing members, you see. Shiva could not come today. That was very unforeseen, so we him. And Suresh and Minal have been absent for a while now. So that's why we are only the people you see now. But nevertheless, we are happy to see you and then continue. Oh, sorry, Claudine. Okay, we have our Claudine, who has been in the council. She's our sister, and and then we have, on top of this, we have also Satya, who has been now, I think it's the 11th year, the council secretary, and she has been invaluable this year. Also with memory, but with her kindness again, and with her work, dedicated work, even on Sundays. So thank you, Satya.
Okay, so we're going to start. We're going to start with a little presentation. We only had a week, to work on it, so it's nothing incredible or special. But we just felt we wanted to simply update you all with a bit of what's been going on the last year. As you see, we started with this slide, and I think actually, is it going to be you, Ganesh, who's going to read the first one? Or why is it not working? Yeah. No, it's not actually, Shivaya. Yeah, I was pointing it there, it's not working. I was pointing it here before it was working. Okay. Yes, I know, that's what I'm pointing it. Watch me point. Look at now. Okay. Oh, it's the battery. So you read. That's working. Okay. Yeah. Okay. You want to read, Balji? Come. Okay. Unity and diversity. We want to express that in the last year we've had many varying and sometimes opposing points of view held by our team members. But through these differences, we have managed to remain largely respectful with each other, which has allowed us to continue being functional. Most of our members have remained highly committed in difficult circumstances. So this is obviously a little bit related to what's going on in Auroville at the moment. We are all for the city. The council has kept a firm stance. We are here to support the building of the city in a spirit of respect and collaboration. Okay, now to Shivaya.
The Auroville Mandate 2004, so it is actually needed, an update, or let's say a review is needed, and we have been working on, but somehow we never brought it to a finishing. So bear with us. The following was approved by the RA meeting of December 2004. The mandate of the Auroville Council is to assist the members of the Residents' Assembly in organizing their activities as follows: to maintain and harmonize the various mandates of the working groups of Auroville and to see that the working groups function according to their mandates. To harmonize the interaction among the working groups and the activities of the residents of Auroville. Number 2 is actually that which is no further, which is obsolete. And it is a clause on coordinate a short-term plan and budget. This is now done by the FMC with BCC. So this is actually already since 3 years, no more so. But it's still in our mandate. And it has to be taken out. We acknowledge that. And we are actually wanting to do it, but we haven't found the time to do. 3, encourage the generation of programs and policies for the realization of these objectives above. Oversee the observance of policies and decisions approved by the RA in collaboration with the Working Committee and address non-compliance with established Auroville policies. This is challenging, has so far been challenging, but definitely something we need to work on. Deal with emerging issues that fall outside the purview of other working groups. This is something which is often ending up on our table as an emergency, and unfortunately sometimes takes a lot of energy and time, as there are no adequate body to transfer or mitigate it to. Establish and oversee review and arbitration bodies when required. Appeal process and so on. Report regularly to the Residents' Assembly on its activities. The report, but we are actually also meant to meet much more often with the community, which we haven't somehow managed. Ensure that the principles of natural justice are observed in Auroville, such as providing relief from arbitrariness in decision making. Convene regular meetings, general meetings. So that's part of the interaction with the RA, which we are doing now today for the first time in these 14 months. And we hope to be able to follow up on this in regular intervals. That's actually a point, something we really want to do. And so please help us to stay with that and remind us if we don't. Thank you.
Maybe just one section each. Okay. So next is 14 months of not meeting with the Residents' Assembly. We just want, since the appointment of our group in February, March 2021, we have not hosted a GM yet, although it is stipulated in our mandate to do so regularly. However, the Council has been sharing our quarterly report and other announcements in a timely manner. We want to apologize for this, but also explain some of the main reasons. There were COVID restrictions on large gatherings until early 2022. When we began our work, the community confronted us with an overwhelming amount of contentious issues and a huge workload. It was difficult to find the time and the energy. With continued turmoil in the community and a lack of clarity through a continuous arrival of new and urgent topics, we always felt behind the current issues. GMs on older topics did not seem appropriate anymore. So that happened quite a few times. We had about 2 or 3 planned in our mind. There was even one meeting that we had announced but then cancelled. But somehow, actually that was cancelled for a different reason. But yeah, this year has been so fast that somehow by the time we prepared a meeting, it was already old news. So then during the year, our members took leave of absence, some of them extended, it's supposed to say. Many of our team are new with little experience of public speaking. We lack the inclination and confidence. Okay, do you want to do the next one or? Should we do one line each? Okay. Look, I'm just going to keep talking. And anyway, we're going to do question and answer. Everyone's going to have a chance to speak. Some of the main challenges over the last 14 months. To learn and try to understand the many layers of our organization, as well as the many opinions and dynamics found in our community. For this, at times, we had to do extensive reading while keeping up to date with the many current and ongoing issues on our table. To understand the systems Auroville has in place for conflict resolution and gaining the experience of how to implement these with confidence, while also wanting to improve on them. The transition from having the assistance of Kudam with conflict resolution towards finding new ways of managing and exploring conflict resolution. The Auroville conflict resolution policy and structure needs further refining. The lack of an organized and comprehensive social service sector. So this is actually probably what council spends, 50 to maybe 70% of its time on, is actually social service type work, which typically normally that's held by professionals, whilst we are simply elected members with very few skills when we enter, then we learn. So this is something that we certainly want to improve on in the coming time. We'll get to that, but the social service sector needs more support in Auroville because it jeopardizes the work of the council. It jeopardizes the work we can put into mandates, into organizing, into holding working groups accountable, into doing whatever we're supposed to be doing. Next. With the arrival of the new secretary of the Auroville Foundation and the developments within the community, the impact of her wish to be involved in internal organization of Auroville is felt. The increased division in the community and at times also between working group members. The events in December at Youth Center and Dharakali, including the NGT case. The lack of willingness from community members and groups to adhere to RA decisions and processes. The practical difficulty of implementing certain ratified mandates and policies. This is also another thing that in my experience has been very difficult, is when you look at some of our mandates, some of our policies, to actually, they're often just very difficult to implement practically. They have a very sort of high standard and high ideas, but to actually implement them. And then you have that discrepancy between implementation and what people expect, and then things become really lopsided. And then vehement attacks from individuals towards the council and its members. And that's also something that's really quite difficult when you come into the council, and I'm speaking for myself mostly, but is, the stress, the anger, the pain that people direct at us, So maybe that's also something that, the community as a whole can think about more, is, are we here to kind of beat up our working groups, or are we there to try to support them to do a better job? Or should we do that? Okay, and so I think that's me for now. Shivaya, do you want to speak?
The most relevant achievements over the last year, or let's say what we feel we have definitely been able to help progress. we remained relatively functional despite a lot of upheaval. Also, nobody's spared today, so we don't need to say that. The creation of a CRP3 emergency team. I mean, CRP stands for Conflict Resolution Policy. And we have worked on a kind of protocol even before this council together with Vikram and others in the community. And now we have formed a team that holds these emergencies. And this is actually what we are talking of. So this is becoming something we can call back on when some violent action happens or something. And we have also a team that is helping us in general with conflicting situations, but that's more personal kind. It's not collective issues. So that is because Kudam steps back, we have to find new ways. So that's what we managed to so far put in place. These teams support the council with tackling conflicts and challenging cases. The emergency team gives us a platform to respond with efficiency when called upon. The team has come together several times in the last 6 months and has proven invaluable. The protocol for this team was finalized early 2021 by Resource with the help of resource people, with the council together, let's say. And is this the move towards reorganizing the council by having two main focus subgroups, one for conflict resolution and the other for managing mandates and policies, their development and harmonization. So these two subgroups are kind of permanent subgroups now, and we can really work together on the respective areas of work. We have to do more of this, so it's not done. We will need also one organization. We'll need much more. Next year will be a lot of work, so be prepared. We're going to call on you. As these subgroups are only at their beginning, we hope that in the near future, they will allow us to be more efficient with focused team, time, and work areas, while being able to involve resource people to help us with the workload. With these subgroups in place and the support they provide, the council will be far better equipped to follow up on the participatory working group document and offer the standard of work that we all would wish for, including improving its ability to be responsive, proactive, accountable, and organized, and to fulfill its own mandate more comprehensively. Expansion. So what do we need to do for this? Expansion of pool of resource people. Around 30 new people came already forward, some of whom are already helping us. Creating of support groups to implement the conflict resolution policy. That is the Appeal and Arbitration Coordination Group and the Facilitator and Mediation Coordination Group. That is mainly done with Kudam members, with people who have been working in that field already. We are actually not involved in that work directly. Creation of Selection Process Review Task Force. That is our recent collaborative work with a task force. We have just been voting on the outcome on the new selection process. So tomorrow we'll see whether this has gone through and whether we can implement this now. The creation of an interim RAD policy with VCOM and with Working Common Resource People. The interim RAD is now what we are using. So that also this had been done this year. Selection of new land board members via the Land Board Selection Committee and refining the land board selection process. yet to be shared with the community. As you know, we have been trying to improve processes for selection. So the last, one of the important processes was kind of improved on, refined on throughout the land board selection, but then even much in hindsight to see what is better, what could have helped us, and so on. Then another important work was the Matri Mandir executive selection process. A subgroup comprised of Auroville Council, Working Committee, and FAMC members did that job. And they are they're involved also now as they're kind of following up on it. The review of the appeal process with help of resource people, that is work in process. It's actually almost completed. It's just being shared with the working groups for afterwards come to the community. That is very much done together with NIVA and with other people who have been working in this field. So we are trying always to work with experts, let's say. Implementation of Oronet guideline on a trial basis and creation of Oronet moderator support group. That's also one feature of our Oronet that we are experimenting now actually. And we will have to look at it all together in the next months and see whether it's successful, whether we want to modify it. Efforts were made with the FAMC and BCC to outline a suggested process for asking an Aurovillian to leave their workplaces. That's called the dismissal of Aurovillian from workplace. This has been actually, in a way, we all felt so much the need because from the council we could see as cases came to us. And then when we wanted to present it as a guideline, people felt, no, it shouldn't be too imposed or so. So it's really there as a reference if you have something like this. It indicates steps to follow when on a workplace you have a relationship with a worker that you feel, no, we have to see how we continue. We have an Aurovillian. It's not for all employees. This is truly only for Aurovillians. Thank you, Suryan. Managing several emergencies and difficult cases. Yes, we have told you. That's our daily bread almost, we can say. Creation of several study groups and subgroups. So a lot is being done that is not yet really visible, I can say.
Okay, so these are some of the objectives. I'm sure we have more, but really it was quite a fast presentation that we created. So to bring unity to the community. How nicely that rhymes. It should be easy, but we're humans. That's the problem. Then to work closely with the community and to gain its trust while acknowledging our shortcomings. So yeah, when I enter the council, I just feel, this, we have such acrid relationships with each other, and so, yeah, I mean, I didn't think about this much, but it is important, to extend trust and to respond, and there's a bit of a feedback loop that's created there, so, and that for me is where the magic of consciousness comes in, awareness, our future as a human race, so I find that a very important thing is, extending trust, as well as asking for it, you know what I mean? Yeah, so I'm just saying, trust me, and then I'm gonna rip you off or something. No. Okay. Okay, to continue our work of collating, developing, and harmonizing the mandates of working groups. To continue supporting the development of a social service sector and conflict resolution, that was already mentioned. To encourage the push for progress while not losing sight of mother's intentions for Auroville. To promote the 12 qualities of the mother, to translate our aspirations into action and towards realization. Personally, for me, this is a really important one because I always believe that, there's this sort of myth in our minds that somehow through more organization and new systems, we're going to find the solution towards human unity. But in my understanding, actually, the solution lies in the 12 qualities. So each individual, embodying those qualities more becomes, like, I did have an analogy. It's like a bike, if you have a bike and you have no oil in it, it's just not going to work, right? And the oil is this, right? So it doesn't really matter how good or bad a system you have. As long as you have this, at least it'll run. And then obviously you want a better system. Then to support the RA in better organizing itself. And I mean, I'm seeing that there's a big push for the RA to try to organize itself better. We just created the RA participation group, but that's not really focusing on organization. I know there's a parallel group, I think it's called RA Dreaming, that wants to look into that. So we're intending on meeting with them and seeing what can be done. And that's obviously something that lies dear to all of us, I think, is how can we better organize the RA so that we can build that trust that I was talking about, etc. Okay. And we're nearly at the end. So we're going to organize. We're going to receive questions in three forms. One are questions that we're gonna answer now. Others are questions that we will partially answer, but we'll want to share more at a later time, either at another meeting or in a publication, and questions that we'll have to park in order to answer them at a later time or to refer the question to relevant groups for their responses. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Suryan. We also have refreshments. So for those of you we're still going to continue with the meeting, but if you need to have a refreshment, please feel free to go out, get it, drink it out there, and come back in. But we will continue, and we do have speakers outside. We request that you keep your questions, comments, and suggestions to very short, very clipped, so that we can reach out to as many people as possible. We also ask you, we can have a roaming mic, but for those people who are mobile, it's better if you come up to the front and ask your question. So, on that note, are there any questions, concerns that you would like to air, or suggestions? Yes, why don't you come to the front, Sabine? And we will also have a speakers list. And speaker list. Yeah. I'm sorry, the audio outside does not work because we have a power outage. So grab your drink and race back, and maybe you'll be able to hear just right outside the door.
Thank you. So first, it's nice to have a general meeting with the council, which should be the same for every single working group, by the way. I really miss that link with the community. I think the community has been kept I don't know how you say that in English, infantilized, kept as a child constantly without enough information, without enough exchange. So I hope we are going that way better, because then we have to vote. All of us are asked to vote on things we don't know about, we have not seen, we don't understand the consequences. So there's a lot of work to be done together. I've also noticed that our council members and other groups members are not up to date with most policies or what's happening or structures. So I understand you're learning, but I would hope in the next selection process that we have people who already know enough to be functioning right away, because we cannot wait like a year and a half to have people understanding the very first line of their mandate. I have specific questions on the appeal review process that's happening. It is said in the appeal document itself that all the parties and absolutely every single case will be closely documented and reviewed, including all parties. I want to know how many of these cases happened and how many have been talked to and included. I'm sure was not included, despite having called for an appeal for something as big as the News and Note at the time and the city service. then I lose my trust. I have a question about the missing members of the councils. Yeah, one at a time, okay.
So I was actually part of the subgroup that was reviewing the appeal process. I went for 2 meetings, after which I simply didn't have the time to go to the meetings anymore. And it was held mostly by the arbiter coordination team, including one other resource person, and so they did most of the reviewing of the appeal process with some of our recommendations, because we had worked with the FAMC and found a lot of difficulties. That's a whole nother story. So in terms of your specific question as to who they interviewed, which appellants they interviewed.
How many cases you had? Because this has been delayed for...
Sorry?
This review process has been delayed for I don't know many years, because apparently there was not enough cases to be reviewed.
Yeah. So that's
and now
another
you
question.
have a few more cases, but then you skipped a few. So that's...
So what's your question? Please be clear about the question and I'll answer.
How many appeals happened since the document, and how many were reviewed?
But that was not... Oh, right. So I think, if I remember right, it's either 22 or 24 appeals that have happened in the last 7 years. Yeah, and in terms of who was actually spoken to, and I know specifically in your case, you had wanted to be consulted, but you weren't. And I think that's something that we'll have to park now, and we'll have to get back to you and actually ask the people who are doing the review, to ask them why they didn't want to.
And why? And how many have been consulted out of the 22 or 24?
That I don't know, I'm sorry, but we can answer that. I mean,
you were part
we'll
of that
park it
review?
now.
You were part on...
I was there for 2 of the meetings, yeah.
So who is in that group? No, we have to ask questions about functioning.
It's the arbiter coordination team.
Sorry?
The arbiter coordination team, which is Tara and Niva, and the other person was Martin Littlewood.
Can't wait.
And then it was Shivaya and myself, and I think Balaji, but I think Balaji came to maybe 1 or 2 meetings, and we also only came to 1 or 2 meetings, yeah.
So that
at least 2 meetings.
No, so
Maybe
would be a
3.
suggestion in general is to keep informing the community about the subgroups, who they are, reviews, groups, like every monthly meeting. Yeah. So also we know who we're supposed to talk to, because believe me, it's a challenge. It's never the person you talk to, it's always the others, or I wasn't there, or it's not me. It's very challenging, and it's not following the PWGs.
Yeah, thanks for that suggestion. I agree.
I think that's very important that there is an opportunity for accountability, and that's what you're requesting, is that there is a list and there's accountability that comes back, yes? And it's on a regular basis. You will do.
And
she asked specifically for actually updating the community on a regular basis about the new subgroups that are being formed. And I think that would be a great practice, just to announce them regularly. Yeah.
Okay. Then my second question was about the missing members of the council.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, but can you answer? I mean,
so ask that question, and then maybe we have someone else afterwards. Yeah. So about the missing members, I think Shivaya is going to speak to that. About the missing members of the council.
Her question is about the missing members of the council. Where are they?
I don't know. They have not been working for a while. You see.
Actually, not all of them. First speak about Shiva.
Okay, Shiva. This morning, Shiva could not come because a relative or a person very close to him died recently. She has a death in the family. The other 2 have not been coming to the council in the last 3 weeks or so. And yeah, Meenal not more. And yeah, so they have been absent for a while. They knew about the meeting and they're not here. We cannot say. We have not heard from them why they're not here. So we cannot tell you more.
Yeah. For now, for the time being, at this very juncture. But maybe you'll hear more soon.
So this is all being documented. We have the video that's playing. We're having a live stream right now. Satya is taking notes. So will there be a transcript, or there'll be notes, right? There will be a report that's made. I just want to ask if there's other questions right now, and then we can come back to you. Yeah? Yeah. Are there other questions at this point, or may Sabine continue? Come. You're taking the names. Great. Yes. And then who's after Mita? Maybe we'll have a list so we're not waiting in between. And is it possible to get some light? Thank you. Come, Mita.
You're not. Oh, I've been told to tell you don't bring the tea inside. Sorry.
Yes, sorry. You can only water.
I don't mind, but that's the.
Okay. My question is actually. I'll keep standing. Oh, okay. I'm Meeta. I'm from the Language Lab. And my question is about, this thing about the mandates and making sure people follow their mandate, the working groups follow their mandate. And I feel like we are on fire and then acting like nothing's happening. And I heard some news, actually 2 pieces of news I heard today, and I want to know if council actually has any idea about that, and also if anybody in the room has idea about that. So the first news I heard, which was extremely shocking to me, is that it seems that the secretary has signed already an agreement with the CPWD, that is the Central Public Works Department, which is the building agency of the government, a 20 crore project to do the Crown Road. So this is what I heard this morning from somebody who's quite aware about planning issues, right? And I think that is a major issue within the community, is the whole functioning of the TDC. And we have only 2 people left there, and people are being appointed without any of us knowing. The RA doesn't seem to have any role. And the second information that I got is that, in fact, there is a whole plan to design the city. This is notwithstanding everything. Dream catchers was our way to try to bridge this huge difference between us, right? We all said we put behind the dream catchers and we try to bridge the difference, right? But now, the news I got today is that, in fact, there are going to be some 20 people employed in the TDC office who are going to design the city, and there's going to be a huge town hall as part of that process, and basically the RA has no role. So I think that as a community, I'm not only saying for council, I'm saying this is like a huge burning issue which we as the Residents' Assembly need to talk about, and maybe council is the one that has to find out, but we need to do something. We cannot have this situation where a few people now who have basically, I think they've lost their mandate in the way things are functioning. So we have the possibility to come together to do something after so much effort from so many people. I find it really crazy that this thing is just going on. And then we're just having a meeting as though we don't have a fire under our seats. If Auroville is in fire right now with this division, with what is happening, things are going out of our control. We are nobody. The RA is nobody right now in the way this thing is happening. So we have to come together as a community and do something about that. So this is what I want to say.
Thank you, Mita. Yes, we absolutely have to come together, and we have to be enraged, and we have to do something about it. But it's not just about talk. It's actually about putting that into action. And while we might smile and everything, we have to be enraged, whatever that is. But we also have to have something where we come back to council to say, what is your role with the mandate after everything that you are hearing to report back? Yeah?
Actually, this is new to us, what Mita was saying, and we will go back, and if that is the firing thing, every day we are getting firing news to council, so we can go back and come back to you. And also, one more thing about this TDC selection, it is going to happen soon, because we have already, the selection process team has put forward, and it will be known tomorrow, no? Tomorrow we'll know the result for the selection process. So other than that, Yeah, maybe Suryan can add up.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things to be said. I definitely feel you, Mita. And things are alarming. I mean, I think we can all agree that in the last year, a lot of crazy things have happened. A lot of bizarre things have happened. And in relation to the ATDC, we've been, we haven't really had any contact with them. We've been writing mails, but receiving very sparse replies, very late replies. And we know that the memberships have sort of been changing, and they're not updating the community, all of which we've tried to kind of catch up to. And we have, you know, I think in the last 2 or 3 months, given 2 announcements to the community regarding their membership. And I think it's also, you see, one important thing is that the council, we want to remain as sort of neutral and you know, catering to the entire community. At the same time, we know that there is that an RAD has been proposed to look at the office order of the ATDC, and that is actually in line. After this, there's 2 current RADs that are running. One is for the selection process, which should be, I think the deadline is today, and the other is for the no confidence in the working committee, so that's ongoing. And the next RAD that is planned is regarding the ATDC. So, and I think that with, we know that, I think the ATDC problem started many years ago. The little that I know, you know, starting partly with the restructuring of ATDC, that was not implemented. And then, you know, we had the standing order that was issued. I don't know who actually issues it specifically, but that was not kind of matching with the restructuring of the ATDC. And that was when we came to the council a year ago, that was the big topic. What's going on here? We have a standing order, which is who actually issues the standing order? I guess it's the foundation office, right? I think it comes directly from the GB, right? It was the governing board, yeah, of course. So then the governing board issued something that wasn't entirely aligned with what the residents' assembly had put on the table, and so that was the hot topic, and it was felt that these 2 documents had to be harmonized. And then also what comes into play is, who does actually the ATDC answer to? Do they answer to the RA, or do they answer to the governing board? So there's, you know, a degree of ambiguity there that needs to be clarified in time. But the residents' assembly is, you know, in at least 2 different documents, mandated to select the ATDC, right? So let's not forget that. So yeah, so in terms of the present ATDC, it seems like it's, you know, there needs to be a new selection. There's only, I think, 1 or not even 1 member now in the ATDC who's selected by the RA, when actually, as per the standing order, there's supposed to be 13 from the RA, 13 members selected. So let's see how things develop in the next RAD in relation to ATDC. I mean, this topic has been on the table for a while, and we've been trying to kind of navigate it as best as possible. Yeah, come, Mita, you want the mic? Oh yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to add that, you know, before to do meaningful something, whatever, I think we need to really have good information. You know, this meeting is not to go on something which we have heard. So if you have information, if you know, then it's good to prepare it and call for a meeting with all the relevant information, and then to see what we meaningfully can do. Because certain things, there is just nothing we can do. I mean, to me. But before we start anything, we need to have full information with details.
Can I just say?
Yeah.
Although there's a list of people, it makes a lot of sense to me. If somebody has something that they want to discuss and get off their chest, that we may as well, you know, finish that discussion and then move on to the next person. That's what I think makes sense.
Okay, so just following up on that, I think it's like we're saying, it's not acceptable that we continue. You said that there's supposed to be 15 people chosen by the community, and it's not. So I think this thing, I understand what you're saying, Shiva. We need, I don't know if anybody else in this room has actually news about it, it's something that I heard. And I think it's serious because it's somebody related to planning who actually told me this. So this is something serious happening, and we don't know. We don't know what's happening in name of Auroville. And I feel that that makes it an emergency situation. It's really crazy. We can't just carry on like tan-tan, I think we're in an emergency situation. If this is happening right now, we have to do something as a community. That's all I'm saying. And it's a first, here we have a big meeting. On Wednesday, there'll be another meeting. But we can't just carry on with topics as though nothing is happening. That's all I'm saying. And I understand that meetings are called for a reason. We need the info. So I would request council can then find out if that info is true. You see? And we have our next meeting on Wednesday. Then if it's true, we have to decide whatever is the topic of the meeting on Wednesday, we'll all be here, but then we have to do something then. If we're not ready to do it now, we need to do something. We need to do it together because this is really crazy. What's happening, I'm so sorry, is really crazy.
Yeah, so the first thing I'll say is, maybe we'll have to, share more later. But is that, first of all, we've tried, as we said, to communicate to the ATDC, but we haven't gotten any responses recently. Barring storming up there and forcing them to sit in a meeting, the thing is, for us, I guess, the situation at ATDC has been so confusing and strange that we didn't really know what to do. Who do we approach? Where do we go? I mean, usually you write an email and you get a response. Okay, nothing, So, but Mita saying something needs to happen. Well, that RAD that was planned is on the table, right? To select new ATDC members. And once there are ATDC members selected by the community, then those people would be responsible to, get the information that you're speaking of. I'm not sure, I guess maybe you're asking council to go speak to the secretary to find out if this is true. No, it's not actually, as far as I understand. So far, typically, as I understood, is that the working committee is actually the liaison, yeah, and that actually council is not really in direct touch with the secretary. There's actually, yeah. Well, just a little bit maybe.
No.
Okay, so we'll have Sauro respond. Why don't you come and respond, Sauro, and then we'll park it, okay? Because we do want to move on, yeah? But it is an important topic, so it should be discussed.
No, we don't have any information on this particular project of the 20 crore, etc. I wrote also yesterday night in one mailing correspondence. We don't have, as working committee, maybe some individual, but as working committee, we don't have information. What is true is there is the tendency is to assign work to the Central Public Work Department. This is shown also in the presentation of TDC, which is published also on Euronet. So the tendency to give work for the implementation of the project which are made with the government grant may happen. There is discussion, is consideration that the Central Public Work Department may execute this work. That is in the public domain. You go on Euronet, TDC presentation, you will find there all the information. Whether there is a contract, a budget of 20 crore allocated for this and that is information we don't have. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not, but that is information we don't have. What I can only say that there is a strong tendency in this direction, and this published. And then next few days there will be the minute published by the governing board, the last governing board. Maybe there are some more information in this direction. As a working committee, we have not met the secretary for the last 2 weeks. We met during the governing board, but she was in Chennai, so we met all online. Of course, we will ask all relevant information as usual, but at the moment I'm not in a position to confirm or say that is true or not.
Thank you, Saro. My understanding from Shavaya as well is that they also will look at getting more information and see how they can report something on Wednesday. Is that my understanding? Yeah. Claudine?
We have to know what is our situation as a resident assembly. We know or we don't know what some working group are doing or what they are not doing. If we feel that we are in an emergency situation as a resident assembly, we have to act. We have to meet and we have to decide what we can do, independently of what are doing the working groups.
Thank you, Claudine. Satish, do you have a... Come, Elisa. And then Eric. Come, Eric.
So yes, I'm Elisa, and I wanted to thank you actually for the presentation. I was touched by the authenticity and trying to give a fair picture of your challenges and achievements. So thank you, and thank you for your work. While hearing Mita and feeling also a resonance with that there is a fire bigger than our usual fires, because council is also dealing with fires. And I do feel the need, we meet as community, we meet on RAD, which means with very specific focus, while something is boiling, and we don't get the chance to meet and exchange on what do we feel, where we are at, what's actually burning, and there are not only specific focus. So yes, Wednesday would not be the time to address, I would say, to open a window to address that, yet let's see. So my request or my recommendation to the council is actually to invite for more meeting of the resident assembly in order to hear one another, in order to have an open space. So that would be my request. And my question to you would be, what was your direct experience with the working committee? Because you are somehow in your mandate, you have taken care of the good functioning of the working group, and the dysfunctioning of the working committee was quite a major event this year. And I'm curious to hear, did you feel empowered? Did you feel having the confidence to do something? What was your direct experience basically throughout?
We have to admit that we were impacted. We have good relationships with all the individuals, but as a team, already early, it was felt from our side, because we actually are often looking at challenging situations together with them. So for us, they are kind of a sounding board also. But this year, it became more and more difficult to collaborate. And we actually saw their challenge in the team. So on Wavy, we were impacted, but we saw the challenge in the team. And when it actually grew into a phase where it really needed attention, first of all, there were members that did not want interference. And on the other side, we as a team are very new. So we also maybe felt were lacking confidence to push for reconciliation, to push for mediation, to push for facilitation. So the resistance of some members and our inexperiencedness, that definitely was there. So I can say we all witnessed that the way it's detrimental if such an important team as the working committee is not really functioning well in a crisis situation. So that was it.
Yeah, mostly I just noticed they just weren't available a lot of the time, and stressed out. But I think Shivaya said most of it. You guys want to say something?
Thank you. We have about 40 minutes left. We have quite the speakers list, so I'm just going to let you know who is on the speakers list so we can begin to move this. So Eric, thank you for waiting. So Eric is next, followed by Fabienne, Ashok, Gundolf, Elvira, Priya, Edzard, Rakal, Joël, Sophie, and Jasmine. And one more. Sumit. Okay, Eric, come. So we'll keep our yeah, maybe stop taking names for now.
Hello, thanks for your work. My name is Eric from Baraka, and it looks like a challenge is the power of implementation. Can't you hear?
Maybe speak like this.
Okay.
Point it at your
I
mouth,
repeat.
not like that. Do like that. Yeah.
Like that. Oh, yeah. So, it looks like a big issue is the power of implementation of the recommendation and decisions of the Auroville Council. In general, how do you evaluate that that power of implementation in general? It's related to also what said Mita, but I wanted to that first question. The second question is there a subgroup or group that is planned to work on the feedbacks in general, all kind of feedbacks, the accountability of feedbacks given, that kind of things.
Who would like to take that? So the first question was the implementation and the evaluation of the power of the implementation.
What would you need to strengthen that aspect, to have kind of more power to implement, that any group could really say, yeah, it's kind of mandatory what we say, no discussion.
The first thing that comes to mind is that that I'm not sure everybody wants us to have more power. I think a lot of people often accuse us and other working groups of abusing whatever power they have. But when I came to council, I remember actually being surprised how little power we had, how little people listened to us, or how little, when push comes to shove and someone doesn't want to do what you tell them to do, what do you do? What can you do? So it's a very broad question. I think you have to probably speak about that more specifically in specific areas. And what was this second?
I think it's a very interesting question. What can we do to improve implementation? What is needed? Power or not power, but implementation in Auroville in many sectors is we are weakened. So I take this as a request to think about. So let us think about what we would need to improve and to strengthen that. We'll get back to you, but let's first and ask ourselves all, how can we help each other and this community that we stay with what we agree on, that we don't question it afterwards?
And I believe the second question, yes? The second question was about the subgroup for feedback. Who would like to take that? Do you have a subgroup for feedback?
This is a suggestion. We don't have. We try to, if we get feedback, we reflect, but we are a little team. So how to bring feedback back into a wider realm to think? Yes, ultimately yes, but before There are steps. Yes. Oh, I think we would need to sit with you. We would need to sit with you to understand you well. But how do we create feedback loops that later are also kind of taken in to ultimately shape whatever is to be shaped? Because the feedback, if it's not brought into the actual creation of that policy or whatever, it's useless. So how to do this? I cannot say to you, I don't know right now. I think I want to reflect on.
She said clearance panel. If I remember right, the clearance panel is specific to selection processes and clearing people of feedback. But we know that the clearance panel is not operational, and we know that's something that often comes up. So that's another question. We're not going to... Okay, so... Yeah. No, he was just asking if, because I think what he's saying is that the community gives feedback and it should land somewhere. There's no point in giving feedback if it doesn't get incorporated or used or, right? Just any feedback, huh? Sorry? Exactly, it means you have a dialogue. Yeah, that's what I was, yeah.
So Tom, you're asking that in the future there is a dialogue? Or you're asking for a dialogue
he's
right
just
now?
explaining to us what he was trying to tell us, ask us. Yeah.
Yes, as a principle, there needs to be a dialogue.
Yeah. Yeah.
Come up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what Elisa was speaking to. Yeah.
Tom, you need to be in the microphone.
So Tom is saying there needs to be a dialogue between the Residents' Assembly or the residents of Auroville and the working groups. And I think that's what you were speaking to, Eric, is that communication needs to be stronger. Yeah. Okay, I'm confused by that now. But I think that's also what Elisa spoke.
So the feedback needs to be both a negative feedback and a positive feedback, and it is, and how it's implemented, yeah, and the dialogue, yes?
Yeah, so let us think about that and get back to you, but I think what kind of encompasses most of that is what Elisa was saying, was asking for more regular meetings like this, right, where one connects more to the community and one creates a stronger relationship and bond. Yeah.
Thank you, Eric. Fabian?
Yeah, hi, Fabian. Sorry, I'm trying to sort my thoughts. So this is about neutrality, about power. It's about what can I do at this moment where I think the entire way of how I, and I hope a lot of others in Auroville, have seen how we govern ourselves is questioned. The RA, as one of the pillars of the Auroville Foundation Act, is increasingly sidelined. We have the working committee where we have 4 members who openly disqualify the RA from participating in processes which deal with building our city. We have the ATDC initiating a restructuring process, completely sidelining the RA, not answering to questions which were posed by me and many others on the Euronet. You were copied to that. Coming to your mandate, point number 4 is very clearly to look at and facilitate the functioning of representative working groups. And so it's a core element and you signed up for it. So I'm sorry, I understand that individually it's difficult, but if you are in that group who has that job and you see that 1.5 working groups go completely berserk, and this is what, in my opinion, we have right now, then yes, you have to go to the governing board, you have to go to the foundation office, and then it's not a question anymore of neutrality or anything, but it's standing up for the job that you signed up to do. And if you can't do that and you feel powerless, or you don't want to deal with it, then you take the call and you step back. You justify why you are stepping back, and you have all my sympathy for doing so. But you step back. Saying to the governing board, saying to the foundation office, we feel impossibly challenged. It goes beyond our resources to deal with that, and therefore we stop. But don't pretend to be a functioning working group. Yeah, so this, I think, is something, and there is no question anymore of neutrality. Point number 4 says you oversee the functioning of a working group. If that working group is not functioning, there is no point of neutrality, either yes or no. So, but thanks for coming up and standing here in front, and sorry, it's really not personal, but it's addressed to one group, and I appreciate your effort of doing that here. And I hope you find the strength in the response that you get from the group, from the community. So not a question.
Yeah.
Thank you, Fabian.
Yeah, so you said a lot of things there, Fabian. I wish we could have actually exchanged about each one of those. So to try to recount. So first of all, council has always been, as far as I understood, I actually looked up it in the Foundation Act where we fit. And if we are a group that's created by the Residents' Assembly under 19.3, then we should actually have direct contact with the governing board. But as I always understood, we're not actually created under that, but we're created under the clause to help the Residents' Assembly organize itself, right? So far, typically, the history of the council, as far as I know, has usually never engaged with the governing board at all. In fact, when I was saying, hey, let's say something to the governing board, Shivaya, who's one of our older members, would say, no, that's not our job. That's for the working committee, right? So that's the first point. So then, secondly, you were saying that we've become a dysfunctional working group because we're not living up to, well, those standards. Certainly, I think with the ATDC and working committee, it says in our mandates that we should make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, which I think is super important for the RA, that it has a group that checks on the other groups and says, hey, what are you doing? But again, I think the climate within the council, when I came at least, the strength wasn't there. People didn't even realize that was their job. It seemed like. Yeah. So, and I think also, and actually Amrit just told me, don't cry wolf too often, but I think it's a little bit so we have the working committee. We've had trouble with the working committee, as we all know. ATDC also, there's a lot of stuff going on. And I think within our realm, we've tried to uphold our things. So simply because, and the work that you're talking about, Fabian, which is communicating to the governing board, is actually usually in the hands of the working committee and the ATDC, right? Now, I would actually agree that if in an emergency like we have now, if we were more empowered, more skilled, had more time, then yes, then I wouldn't see why we shouldn't extend our work to speaking with the governing board. So far, the secretary has not entirely ignored us, but has only met with us twice. Twice, and invited us to other meetings. But we're basically not an important group in the eyes of the Auroville Foundation and so far the governing board. So we're not really on the map. But we do have a different function, which is to try to organize and help the RA with its functions for all the, to uphold and do all the things that we are doing. So actually, I don't think it's fair for you to say that, to ask us to step down because we're not like Superman council, but we have done a fair amount. We're trying what we can. And we're here as well now, right? So I don't think any of the other groups have come forward, have wanted to connect to the Residents' Assembly. Trying our best. It's pretty disappointing for me after the amount of effort and work, and I really feel we've done a lot of good work actually, right? To hear someone say that you should resign if you're not up to the job, when it's not actually even our job. Yeah, as far as I understand. Well, come, Fabian, come, let's talk about it. Come.
No, I think what we can do is we can have another opportunity where there can be a discussion. Sometimes when we have vulnerabilities and when we speak our mind, there are feelings that are hurt, there's different perceptions, but we're all here.
When one part of us hurts, somehow we all hurt. So thank you for sharing your thoughts, Fabienne. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. And thank you all for coming together because we need to support each other, whatever we feel and think. We're here. We are Aurovillians, newcomers. We are a family. And that's what we are here to do, right? So let's come together. Not necessarily with smiles and everything, but let's come together with open hearts, right? Okay, now,
can I speak to
Ashok?
one more thing? One more small thing? Is that what were you saying, Fabian? It just came to my mind. The thing about it's not about being neutral. So in some ways, what's allowed the council to kind of stick together is that we've really tried to respect each other's opinions as much as possible. Although there are largely varying opinions in the council, and somehow, you know, it's not, for us, it's not about choosing one side or the other. And although personally I do have a side, but somehow it didn't feel like that was my role to just pick a side. You know, it was more about trying to see how can we fulfill the role that we are mandated to do for the community as best as we can.
Thank you. Ashok, and then Gundolf, and then Elvira. If you don't mind coming and sitting up close to the front, then we can move quickly. Ashok, Gundolf, will you come and sit on a cushion or a chair? And Elvira as well?
Hello, everyone. Thanks, Mita. Unless this community is united, we actually can't do anything about building infrastructure. So see about it. And you already have formed a dream weaving architecture group here. So they have to see what they have to see, what they have to do about it. Other than that, I want to know, I mean, from the council side, they're having a trouble to even when they have issues, they have to deal with. If they come up to any recommendation or suggestion to people, they're having a hard time to implement it. And what is, why it is difficult to implement it? Because nobody has the trust. Everybody has an insecure feeling in here. So unless you believe in absolute divine force of Mother and Sri Aurobindo, then that's the only way. You have to surrender. Like, hey, this is what we are. And the people who take that suggestion also have to feel the same way. Otherwise, we can show our muscle and keep on fighting.
Thank you, Ashok. Gundolf?
I like your reminder to the mother. When I entered this room, I was happy to read not only the word city, but to read the city that the earth needs and everything towards human unity. And this is why I came. And I'm very sad to get the latest news that our house is burning. And we need, from my perspective, a fire brigade. That we don't go with the old outworn tools, that we use a new tool. And I was communicating also to people from the council to improve PWT. And my point is, we have something that is overarching. There are 4 points from the charter. And I saw the movie from Kiri Joshi and the details, and I was typing it out that it is a part of your job. My question is, are you ready to become a firefighter? When I listened to you before, when we have a cycle, we have to put oil that it runs fast. But if our cycle goes against the main road and the main road is full of cars against, I want to survive. I want that Auroville survives. I feel we need the tool to secure the way the Auroville is supposed to be. And for me, the charter with its 4 points is the main tool. When we elaborate some more details and like parts from Joshi's video, that we use this tool that is obligatory for all members of all working groups, that they have to sign a new mandate. And in this mandate, when they don't follow their new mandate, where the charter to go with the charter, they have no way to remain in a working group. For me, this is a way for fire brigade within the umbrella, that we have a red line, that this red line, we can't accept everybody. So often I read from the secretary, we all have to go with the charter. And the charter is for me, all the 4 points, the bonding element. This is my contribution and my question. Are you ready to become firefighters? Not alone, but with all of us, that we do it different than before.
So there was a question, a comment, and then a question. Are you ready to become firefighters with the Residents' Assembly?
We're constantly firefighting. So.
Elvira?
Thank you. I'm going to sit because I'm a bit nervous. I didn't want to come here today, and then I came, and now I know why. So I want to start by saying Claudine, Satya, Balaji, Ganesh, Suryan, Shivaya, we've spent a lot of time with each other, and I want to thank you personally for being here today and for the time we worked with each other. And in my role, in my different roles, but in my role as a Kudam founder and mama, and before that being part of the council, I've worked, I think, with every single council in the last 10 years closely. And so I want to give you a feedback first and say, what you wrote up there about really being committed to doing the work, really working hard, really being committed to unity, really being committed to showing up as a team, as one voice, no matter how hard. I really saw that. You live that so much, and that you have my admiration, my gratitude for that, and a job well done. And I don't think many people in the room have any idea what you actually say when you're saying that. So I want to, like, from my deepest heart, say that. What's coming now is on top of that. So I really invite you to hear that as and also, and not as either or. I think what you've done is, in the present situation, I'm not talking about TDC and the town and the public works department, I'm talking about what is happening globally. It's not enough. All the amazing work you've done, it's just not enough. And one thing I want to echo is, or want to show up here, is that when I see this presentation of yours, it takes me back to 9 years ago, when the council did their presentations and they said, we can't anymore, we're burnt out, we're done, we can't do our work. The council 10 years ago said exactly the same words and was exactly fighting the same fight you're fighting today. They were the same fire brigade. For me, that is a question, that is a fact, that if we don't stop and pause and ask ourselves why, what are we missing? That we are going around in circles, and yes, it might be spirals, but to the T, the issues that at that point, for example, got Kudam to start, are so much the same that I really think we need to pause. And what I really think is at the core of it is this thing of power. And as long as there is any group that is not mandated under the Auroville Foundation Act by name, thinking that they can do anything to get this RA going, if the RA is not going to go and get it done by itself, they are falling prey to a savior role. We cannot, nobody can save us except all of us. As long as we are looking up to one group and say, Council, you need to get the RA, no way, it's not going to happen. And so I think your mere existence, because people, the same with the conflict, just because you exist, people can say, no, I'm not going to solve my own conflict. I'm going to the council, I'm going to take their time and energy, and they have to solve it for me. As long as you exist, people will say, oh, the council will make the decision. The council has to go to the TDC. The council has to go. And so we are, I think, by your mere existence, and this has nothing to do with what you're doing or not doing, but because you're filling a place that should not be filled anymore of power and of decision making, you are actively contributing to the RA not being able to stand up. I think we'll only be able to stand up if nobody else is there who we can point at. Nobody. And so this is my wish for you, that you relieve yourself of the role of saving all of us. I don't, Gundab, with all my love, I don't think you should be a fire brigade. It's not working. Yes, but not them specially. We all need to do it. And so that's my appeal to you. Don't try to go into a space that needs to be held by everybody. Just dare to become part of the RA without being also part of the council. That's all. Thank you.
Can I just ask for clarification, Elvira? So are you suggesting that the council dissolve?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and are you suggesting that the working committee and the ATDC also dissolve?
I just said, I think it's not as easy to dissolve groups that are in the Auroville Foundation Act by name. I think any other working group that is not written into the Auroville Foundation Act should dissolve. And we face that mess together. And I think this would turn us around. As long as we can say housing board, housing service, council, here, there, this, entry group, as long as we can sit back and say they have to do it and they did it wrong, we're not going to go through the paradigm shift that we need to go through.
Thank you, Elvira. The next three people that we have are Priya, Edzard, and Rakal. If you are just ready to come up and sit up.
Hello, everyone. I'm Priya. I find great what Elvira said. It's in a bigger scope, and I'm going to go back to smaller details. My understanding is your mandate is to make sure that the mandate of the working groups is followed. And if it's not, for example, what a lot of us are agreeing on is that the TDC and the working committee are not a functional group, then what? You're saying that you're sending emails and not receiving them back. Why don't you go there and talk to them?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I think that is a fair question. I think, yeah, it's a really fair question. I think Claudine went up the other day, and tried to ask what's going on up there. Maybe we should have been more proactive to go up to TDC and check on them. Sorry? Yeah, the other thing also to understand is that...
Nats, what you were saying is maybe we should all go together. Yeah. There you go, we should all go together.
Yeah, is that we have had also voices in the council saying that they're doing a good job, right? So, I'm just saying, we're quite a, there's a broad spectrum of opinions within the council, so, yeah. Yeah, sure. Isa wants to say something. I don't know who's next.
Edzard?
Somewhat?
I'm sorry, could you please come up?
She's saying some dictatorships work really well.
Isa,
I mean, it's a bit extreme, but it's true. Some dictatorships function great. Great social services, fantastic output, but that's not the point of what we're trying to do, no? And so it doesn't matter if they're doing a good job, if they're not doing it in the way that we've all agreed that it needs to be done, then it's just not what it is. So it's not enough to build a beautiful road if it's not with all of us also building it. It's not enough just to do one or two things right if it's not in the way that we're all agreeing, no? Process, means versus the result, right?
Yeah, you're talking about council, right?
Not only council, if TDC is making good results, right, but outside of their mandate completely, it shouldn't matter.
Yeah.
It should matter that we're all following the mandate, and then we might get some things wrong, we might get some things right, but it's not about the results, it's about the way, the path, no, that we get there.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's a very broad question. I'm not sure exactly who you're addressing in council or working committee or ATDC.
You were saying that you wanted to be more proactive, and I think everyone said yes. And they said but we had different voices within the council that said they're doing a good job. But just because someone says, yeah, they're doing a good job, that's not what makes something good.
Yeah,
it's the following of the mandate that defines the good job, not the product.
Yeah, but we have to act as a group. It's very difficult if the group is dispersed and to like act, right?
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, what was your question again? Why didn't we go up there? I said, look, yeah, we should have been more proactive. We should have gone up there. But it was so bizarre what was going on. So we tried to find out who's working at ATDC. We wrote them a lot of mails. They didn't respond. And then Claudine went up. You want to say something, Claudine?
I went up and nobody was there.
Yeah, let Priya finish. Come, Priya. Come.
Again, doesn't that show that that's an unfunctional working group if they're not there? And if they are unfunctional, if you get to the point where you can agree that they're not functional, then what? What is your role?
You know,
What's the next step?
I love this because, well, you see, to get to the agreement that they're dysfunctional is difficult. You know, and that's really been very much the process we've had in the council the last years, trying to come to an understanding. You know? So once we acknowledge that they're dysfunctional, which I don't think as a group we've acknowledged that yet, because some members I don't think that.
I just want to bring in something totally different to ATTC. ATTC. There is a structure being structured somewhere. Whatever we have said has been pushed away. We have tried to get into conversation with this group, but they are all oriented towards the secretary's office. That's the truth. And they ignore what we say. And sometimes they just respond us out of politeness that maybe they are afraid that we do. I don't know. I can't answer on it. But what we face is we are not taken serious.
I think also, look, in regard to ATDC, it is a mess, okay? It's been so difficult because the secretary is asking them to do certain things, a certain section of the community is asking them to do certain things, a certain section really is very unhappy with what they're doing. So we didn't know how to implement it. What do you want us to go up there and like jump them and pull them out of the office or something? How do we implement? Well, okay, so that's what you think, okay? I don't think that's the way to do it. I think that one should follow process and try to organize things as best as possible without creating chaos. That's my opinion. Now, in terms of the ATDC selection process, I mean, the RAD is on the table already, right? It was brought, and that is the next one, right? So for us, already we saw, in a sense, light at the end of the tunnel. Although it is really a bizarre situation right now, there seems to be a way out through this RAD, and let's see what happens. And then everybody here, not just the council, can decide what to do. That's all we could do. Sorry. Yeah, I know, we're not superheroes. Sorry. That's all we could do.
So Nats, is this something that we can have a subgroup and you can coordinate and organize everyone to come together and go as a group? That's what I'm hearing, yes?
Why not, yeah.
Decide together to do that, then we can get organized. The council can organize an RA. You can
So are you aware that, but there is an RAD already planned for that on that topic? It's next in line.
So
I don't know, it would probably open up in 2 or 3 weeks.
We're talking about the next in line. So what I'm hearing from the group is the group wants to take this back. And if you wish to speak, I really invite you to come to the front because it's very difficult to hear crosstalk, especially when you're... Exactly. Thank you, Sumit. We have 6 people that are on the list. Yes, including you. Okay? So you are the last person on the list. We now have about 10 minutes left. So if we can continue, and as we suggested, or what came from the floor, is let's go as a group. Maybe that can be Nats that organizes that, or whoever can meet with Nats, or you can organize it. But let's look at that as a positive action step. Yes? Nats? Yes? Thank you. So it's Art.
Thank you. You're doing a marvelous job, and I thank you. I bow to you. First of all, my thanks to all the members of the Auroville Council, whether we agree with their decisions or with their work or not. They are trying their best, they're trying hard, and I know that, and I appreciate that, and I thank all of you. Then, next, I am resonating, I'm aware it's getting late and we're getting hot. I resonate what has been said by Mita and by Fabian and by Claudine, and finally, especially by Natasha. I have huge respect for people like Natasha, who have been sitting there with Auroville and with Frederick and stopping 3 JCBs. This is actually action. Action as opposed to following process and nothing gets done. So I just want to say thank you, Fabian. Fabian, still here? Okay. Fabian has done a beautiful, well-written compilation of questions, and I have put my name under it, that we all, some 20 or more people, would like to get the answers on that. And today only I saw the reply from you, the Auroville Council, that very relevant questions, but we are at the moment not able to answer. So can you please try to answer that next time? And the other thing I wanted to mention, with all the fires going on, and fire brigades are called for, I remind us all with Natasha's, you know, in the good old days, there was an entry group. The entry group made some really serious, bad decisions. We went there with 65 people, with women and children, and with banners, and with flowers and drinks, and went into the office and said, "Hello, sir, people, you are dismissed," and they were dismissed. That was, of course, before the sheriff, before the secretary lady has arrived. So, please excuse me, that was a slip of tongue, really. But in the end, very quickly, I want to remind us that for an equally important and urgent and burning question is the fact that 4 Aurovillians have asked for a 5-year extension of the visa, and they got 3 months. That this remains at the top of the priority lists, because this is actually opening a 2-class society in Auroville, meaning that the charter and the dream of mother is actually not followed at all, because if you are lucky and you came here through the birth channel, you don't have these problems. So please keep this in your mind and at the top of the priority list. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Itzard. Raquel? We have 8 minutes left, and we have 6 people. May we go a few minutes over so that everyone can be heard? Is that okay with the room? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Auroville Council. That was really a very respectable and very full of information meeting. I think it needs more, like many people said. But what I want to say is completely apart from your presentation. We have heard Mita evoking something which is very, very serious. It maybe needs to be verified. Okay, let's verify. But let's also already anticipate if it is true. Because there are other things, like Edzard said, which are true and which are unacceptable. There has been today also a letter circulated for a petition asking the governing board to meet the resident assembly. It has been asked several times. It has been asked on the meeting which happened on the 12th of April. There is no answer. So am I the only one to think that, in fact, the governing board and the Auroville Foundation office is ready to go completely without our advice, collaboration, participation, if they can. If they can. But I think they fear something. I think we have a power, but we have to acknowledge that we have a power and we have to use it. And I would give you this image. As long as we are not all in jail, they will not move a finger. So for me, it's clear with Natasha, we should go. We should, I don't know if it is the solution. We have to decide, but we have to act. We have not to remain discreet with the process which follows. Look at the process of the dream weaving. We have followed. What is happening? Nothing. Nothing. And it will not happen. So for me, if we are Wednesday, when we meet, if we don't put this in the center of our decision making, we are missing a point. They will continue. They will continue. They will continue. And when are we going to when are we going to react? When are we going to act? We need to act.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Joël and then Sophie. Joël, Sophie, okay, Jasmine and Sumit.
So my question is, why don't we have multiple RAs or RADs at the same time? Because as far as I understand, it's perfectly possible. We have 2 running now. We could have 5, 6, 7 running now. Why are we so slow? The RA needs to work, that means you, and you need to facilitate them, because that was in the slideshow, no? Then the second and the first question was, yeah, no, you don't have to answer that question. I mean, you can answer that question without me being here. But now I lost my first question. Yeah, wasn't the council supposed to have in their mandate also to create a vision for Auroville, or did that get lost in all the conflicts and the firefighting and everything? Respectful of your work, I wouldn't want to be in your place, but that was the second question.
So the first question about the RAD, can we do multiple RADs? Is there someone from the RAS can respond to that along with council? Satish?
Yeah. It's not... Yeah. I could start, Satish, and then by the time you're here, maybe. As far as I know, typically the practice was just to have 1 RAD at a time until that RAD is done, and then to pick up another one. But in this case, it was decided between Council and RAS to at least have overlapping RADs. So we're already moving in that direction to have multiple RADs. Now, if you're saying one could have a 3rd RAD, yeah, maybe. I think the sense was that the community would get confused. Yeah? Yeah. And I know, because you're so... Yeah. No, but look, Noel, I'm just telling you, okay, what was being said, okay? Don't get angry at me. But, yeah. No, it was, Noel, I think, Joel, sorry, I think it came from it seemed to have come from experience. And that's what some people were saying, is that if you had too many RADs at the same time, it would confuse people. I'm just sharing you why, okay? Now.
Joel, I think you didn't want an answer. So
you wanted the answer, right? Yeah.
Please don't get into this confrontation, at least. You didn't want the answer, and he's explaining. Just listen to it, you know? It doesn't work like that. I mean, if you're going to go on that manner, I think the others who still need to speak will never speak. So that's the explanation. Either you could take it, live it with it, or we need to see what are we going to do as a community. And the RA decision-making process is also under review. I'm not sure how many of you over here are actually taking part in all those efforts. I can ask this question right away because I saw all of you asking, when is this ATDC's RADs going to happen? How many of you over here have even participated in that survey that we conducted? Can you please raise your hands? So it looks like a fair amount of people have participated in it. And as you can see, every RAD takes its own time, actually. And this is how the Residents' Assembly decision-making process works. And I understand there's an urge now, as a community, and, for the RAS as well, we have 10 RADs in pipeline at this point of time. You have to see that, actually. And, we cannot push it because we cannot push it. I'm sorry. We cannot push it.
My understanding.
I'm sorry.
My understanding.
We cannot push it because this room today feels that it needs to go urgently. I am sorry. We are not here to talk about how the Residents' Assembly is going to take decisions in the future or currently. We're here about the Auroville Council. I think we need to go through that topic. If you want to really go into decide on how the RA can fast-track decision-making process, please participate in the RA decision-making review process that's happening. This is not the space for it.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
It is happening, Philip.
Okay, we have different perspectives, Philippe. We have different perspectives, and we have as many perspectives as there are in this room. Let's at least honor them. We may not agree with them, but let's at least honor them and with respect. So I respect what you're saying. At the same time, I respect what you're saying, but let's not get at each other. And that's why Madam Secretary is winning, because they're on this one thing trap.
Yes, and as Suryan said, we are already trying to fast-track the RADs as much as possible, and that's where the SPRTF RAD and the Working Committee No Confidence is happening parallelly. And it is actually confusing. You may not agree. A lot of people are confused, and they write to us, not to the residents. They are confused what is the meeting that's happening today. For the SPRTF meeting, they are confused that it's the Working Committee topic. There is a lot of confusion. We cannot have so many topics running at the same time because it's very urgent. And I understand we are at a stage where we need to make a lot of decisions, but it cannot be fast-tracked, because...
I want to say two things there. First of all, I think that we can improve and we can try to speed up as much as possible the RAD processes using the current interim policy. At the same time, we're also working, we're looking at how we can, because anyway, after 9 months, we were supposed to come with a new RADs policy. So with the new RAD policy, I'm sure, because I think many of us feel the same, that RADs take too long, right? So that's definitely on the table. And I think, Shivaya, you want to speak to something? No.
Sophie?
Thank you. First, I really want to thank all the people who are part of all group. It's very difficult at the moment to be part of any group. It's very easy to point the finger at other people and at what is not working. But I think in all the group there is division because we are not all always on the same line. So there is already a lot of work to get to an agreement within every group. And even though I empathize very much with what Fabien, Elvira, Mita said, I don't think that asking the council to step down will resolve anything, because who else will come forward? We really lack skilled people who can really take responsibility, be committed, and do the work that all the groups are doing at the moment, including the Resident Assembly Service. My question is, and I know it's not just the council responsibility, but first is I'm questioning the legitimacy of the governing board, because I cannot see that any member of the governing board's profile correspond to what the members of the governing board are supposed to do, which are people who have been promoting the ideals of Auroville for a long time. So that the first thing I'm addressing, and I don't think is on just the council responsibility, but someone has to address it. And the second thing I think already has been addressed is how to prioritize what needs to be done, to take decisions which have to be responded to in a very urgent manner, with not bypassing all the process, but how to go faster. So I heard a little bit what Satish said. Yeah, how to prioritize and how to react when there is an emergency situation, like what Mita was saying.
Okay, so how do you prioritize in an emergency situation? Would you like to respond to that?
I think, what I believe is, first of all, it's all good if we meet, and yeah, definitely we have to meet more, but also meet more in a silent and reflective way. these emergencies and come with very studied and well formulated information. I am kind of allergic to emergencies in a way where we are just all thinking, oh, this has to happen. Let's define what is really at stake and who and how we can do. I'm not sure that this can be answered here. I would like to put it all for a future GM, that we reflect how can we meaningful as a collective answer to emergencies all together. How do we meet, look at the issue, and then how can we see who acts and how, when? To put it on us, I find not fair.
I think so. There's three topics you brought up. One is the emergencies. So as we all know, right, all of us know because of what happened, is that actually the working committee is empowered to call for emergency RADs, right? So typically that was in the hands of the working committee. Now I think since that happened, a lot of us are like, hey, why is it only in their hands? Okay, so we'll have to see in future how we can improve on that. I want to speak to the other thing Sophie said, which is about the governing board and questioning the appointment of the governing board. Personally, I wouldn't know where to start, but I do know that usually, if at all, anybody would approach the governing board or do something in that manner, it would be the working committee. That's my experience, and it wouldn't fall upon the council. Although, I mean, I have asked the same question at times, because if you look at the Foundation Act, it's clear that they should have contributed valuable service towards Auroville before being appointed. You know, I mean, there's certain things about the Foundation Act also that are like, yeah, you know, maybe it could have been written better. What was the other point? What was the third point? Emergencies, governing board, and the other thing I wanted to say is that, you see, in terms of all of our structures, like what we were facing was recently was, I think, on two separate instances, there was this push to sort of try to delegitimize the RA, right? And to say that the RA is dysfunctional and therefore any of its decisions are not worth anything, right? So that's the problem, right? And we were definitely trying to kind of just make sure that, you know, that to stabilize and follow the processes, you know, keep, you know, support RAS and make sure that, you know, that was part of the poll. Also, the poll had a similar intention, just to make sure that we're, you know, maintaining, well, you know, I mean, to me, it was just bizarre that anybody would even question that the RA was a legitimate body anymore, you know, or that the RA was even, what was said, that the RA is seen as a body that is not able to, sorry? Is dysfunctional or is not representative. Anyway, something like that, you know. But yeah, more than anything, you know, number one priority for all of us, for all Aurovillians, because all Aurovillians are RA members, is to make sure that the RA is upheld, you know, and is legitimate, and that we have systems whereby we can make decisions, and when decisions are made, that they're upheld and implemented and respected.
Thank you. We're starting to lose people, and we have one last person. Jasmine, you've decided not to. You're okay? Okay. Thank you. Sumit?
Hi, I think the points I wanted to bring up came to me when you showed the mandate of the Auroville Council to ensure that the working groups stick to a mandate, but there is no mention of any power you have to ensure they stick to any mandate. I think Priya bring it up and some other people. So I think the RA is dysfunctional because we give mandates without the possibility of discharge the mandate in a proper way. Our processes are very long drawn, and we can see in this emergency when the governing board and the foundation, they meet regularly. I think they met within a month, and they have things and they have power. And we need 3 months to come to a decision of anything or put a voice in front as a body. So again, if we look at a RAD process, when I joined Auroville about 15 years ago, there was not such a long drawn process. There were general body meetings. Did you hear about the RAD process when the Master plan was voted no. It was a general body meeting. So we created these long drawn processes which take months and require this and that in order to take decisions, clearly because we thought we live in a very stable world in which we have months to act. In the COVID pandemic, did the RAS coordinate anything? No, it couldn't. It was done by, Portus, New Portus, Visitor Center, Sante. We got together and did it. So we have to admit that the residents' assembly process is very slow, long-winding, and there are overlapping mandates given to groups. And there is nothing about working. For example, is there anything in the Act which says that residents cannot meet the foundation or the governing board, or only working committee can meet the governing board? It doesn't exist. Working committee is the official representative for official matters, but there is nothing which prevents housing met the governing board, FAMC met it. And I somehow agree with Elvira that we live in a legal structure, like it or not, and in that the governing board is the supreme body, and they are going to or trying to bring the FAMC under them. The TDC has already said in the Dream Weaving first session that we report to the governing board. We were appointed by them. So I think we need to see the power structures, and if we want to have a voice together, find a way to have a voice. Maybe it's better not to have any other internal groups. I do think housing and all are needed to allocate houses. But yeah, if the Auroville Council has no power given to it as per their mandate, then you can't do anything, right? You write emails, you talk to them, you have no power, you can't dismiss people, you can't deselect people, you can't tell people you have not done your job. And even internally today, we are not able to agree in any group of 8, 10, or 100 people what is right or what is wrong. So I understand your difficulty. Because to take an action, you have to agree internally that this action is coherent with a majority at least. So I just see that we have put up complicated processes, we write words, we give mandates, we don't check if they overlap, we don't check if they can be enforced, and that's why we are in this mess. We are unable to speak in a coherent voice in any sort of expeditious manner when an emergency. For example, I respect that the council has stood together, but it seems to have been at the cost of standing back and not meeting the emergency need. For example, we have had a presentation when the problem is the working committee is divided, the ATDC is doing what it wants, and I think Meeta brought up the whole point of the contract. So I think we can stop perhaps thinking about how a structure has been for many years and see whether if we are to have relevance. I'm not sure we can. I'm not sure we can do anything if the governing board appoints or gives contract to PWD. I really don't know what we can do. Also, we don't have any alternative to the proposal they're coming up. But at least we can find a way to organize ourselves and have a common voice which can be articulated in an expeditious manner. So at least we can say, we don't agree with this, and these are the reasons. Otherwise, we just talk. We have already processes. The thing about the first one went on for 3 months, and people are confused. But why are they confused? We meet more often, maybe, if it's a fire. So just my thought, when we say the RA is dysfunctional, I think it means ourselves in a way that is efficient and coherent. And Mother never wanted this mishmash of bodies. She wanted a group, and we never empowered any group of 9, 10, 12, 8 people who could take final decisions which are binding. We have created all these bodies between FAMC, Entry Service, Housing, BCC, Auroville Council, Working Committee. Can you tell me which one can say this is the way Auroville is going today and we have to stick? Someone asked about vision, I forgot. Without vision, how do you check if someone is following the mandate? So I think we have lost the track somewhere. Maybe deliberately because we didn't trust any group to stand for us. But given this very strong presence of people who know what they are doing and who are quite certain, it seems, that they're doing charter, we need to do something. Otherwise, I don't think we can do much, honestly.
Okay.
Thank you, Sumit. We have now gone well into the 15 minutes over. Is there one thing that you can say in less than a minute so we can close up? Because we are losing people and they've really taken
I would
time.
just like to bring something else in, because I just heard Sumit make a lot of points, and I'm not as pessimistic as you are. I'm actually extremely optimistic. I try to be extremely optimistic. I don't think there's nothing that we can do. I think that's also quite self-defeating. I think, the RA has legal rights, and I also don't think that we're entirely dysfunctional. I think the RA has, managed to, of course, there's a big room for improvement. I also think that fundamentally that's what Auroville is about, actually, is about figuring out a new way of doing things, and in terms of, you were also suggesting, like Elvira, that maybe the council should be dissolved or something. Actually, I've heard that earlier. And sure, if that's what the RA decides, go for it. But I do see that the council is fulfilling a very specific role and doing a lot, right? And if the council wasn't there, things would fall apart. So, actually where I see the problem is in our ability to implement, right? And to organize. And I feel that we're moving towards trying to organize better. But I'll share with you that when I first came into the council, I really felt like how irresponsible of the RA, right? To put a council in place that doesn't have training, right? To have, we're very disorganized. I don't say, but there's a lot of things simply not in place, and we just haven't organized ourselves well enough. And I think that's all we have to do. We have to move towards organizing ourselves better, right? And in relation to the governing board, the RA has rights. So let's not say that there's nothing we can do. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Sumit.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Suryan. Thank you very much. I can see that there are people that would really like to go. You have been so beautiful, so patient, listening to each other with an open heart. And yes, we have disagreed, but we have disagreed with heart, and we've disagreed in harmony, if there is such a thing. And we have had diversity in unity and unity in diversity. So big kudos for all of us here. And there is a way. There most definitely is a way. And the question is not to ask, oh God, how am I going to, blah, 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 blah. Yes, up until now. But now, how do we move forward? And we've had a few suggestions. 2 words. Goodwill.
Yeah. Goodwill. Let's all say goodwill.
And
Let's shout it out.
Note,
goodwill.
On that note, goodwill. Thank you. Yes.
Police for gangsters, for God knows what, when actually we have to just be people of goodwill.
On that note, people of goodwill, I am going to ding the gong, and I'm going to invite you to have a moment of silence where we come together. Just a moment of silence. And yes, quality.